Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with the Spain news update. And another mass protest hit Spanish streets yesterday, with more and more people showing their discontent with the current coalition government. But more about that in just a moment. Firstly, a big thanks to all of the people that left comments on the last video. Lots of comments, lots of debate happening there as usual. Thanks to people that supported the channel through a donation or by buying me a beer or a coffee. Many thanks for that. Thanks to people that bought merchandise, and a big thanks to my patrons on Patreon for your continuing support. Now, let's get into the news, and as I said, another mass protest hitting Spanish streets yesterday, with more than 100,000 people in Madrid complaining about rising costs. As we can see here, Spain hit by yet another mass protest over rising prices. As many as 150,000 farmers, ranchers and hunters marched Sunday through Madrid to protest the Spanish centre-left government's failure to tackle soaring prices exacerbated by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The mass demonstration came a day after thousands of demonstrators, called by the far-right Vox party, protested against rising food, energy and fuel prices. Hoisting Spanish flags and blowing whistles, demonstrators walked Sunday through the central avenues of the capital, often led by tractors blaring their horns. Slogans stamped on protest banners read "Costs continue to rise," or "We are ranchers on the way to extinction," and "SOS Rural World." The protest, which a government official estimated drew 150,000 people, was organised by the Rural Alliance, which says it represents 10 million people in Spain. So around 150,000 people protesting yesterday in the streets of Spain's capital Madrid, saying that they are close to extinction and demanding that the government do something urgently to lower fuel costs, energy prices and rising costs in general. Now, the truckers' dispute here in Spain has taken a new twist today, and loyal truckers have sent an ultimatum to the government. Either it approves diesel subsidies or they will also shut down. This Monday is a crucial day for resolving the conflict that has been going on for just over a week now between thousands of transport workers in protest at the spectacular rise in fuel prices. The majority of transport associations, which until now have opposed the strike called by the so-called Platform of the Defence of the Freight Transport Sector, are going to give the government an ultimatum. Either it approves direct subsidies for the price of diesel for lorry drivers immediately, or they will give their members the freedom to join the strike, even if as an organisation they did not subscribe to the call. So there we go, other transport workers, the loyal transport workers up until now, sending an ultimatum to the government. Approve fuel subsidies or they will also shut down. And if that happens, I can't imagine what the chaos would be like. Now, another big story that broke over the weekend is that Spain has changed its position on the disputed Western Saharan region. And as we can see here, Spain, seeking better ties with Morocco, shifts stance on Western Sahara. In a bid to ease tensions with Morocco, Spain has recognised for the first time a plan drawn up by the African country for governing Western Sahara, a former Spanish colony that has been torn by a separatist conflict for 5 decades. The endorsement of Morocco's plan to grant some level of autonomy to Western Sahara could usher in a new stage in Spain's relationship with Morocco, the authorities in Madrid said when announcing the move late Friday. But the development was immediately denounced by the representatives of the Polisario Front, a separatist movement in the Western Sahara that represents the Sahrawi ethnic group. So Spain shifting its stance with that Western Sahara region, looking to improve ties with Morocco, but at the same time worsening its relationship with Algeria. And a lot of people having trouble to understand this, considering that Algeria supplies Spain with 40% of its gas needs. And as we can see from this next headline, Spain puts 40% of its gas needs at risk. Algeria and Morocco are sworn enemies. In between the two is Spain, which needs the latter to contain the immigration problem, and the former because it is the main supplier of natural gas. That difficult balance of navigating between the two waters has been broken. Sanchez's government has decided to accept the autonomy of Western Sahara proposed by Rabat, and Algeria, a supporter of the Polisario Front, has unleashed a diplomatic crisis with Madrid. For the time being, the respective ambassadors have returned to their countries. So probably not the best idea to put 40% of your gas needs at risk by alienating a country like Algeria. And which country is it better for Spain to have closer ties with at the moment? Morocco, because of the immigration problems, or Algeria, because they supply gas? Now, keeping on the subject of gas here in Spain, according to newspaper ABC, Spain has enough gas for 40 years, but extraction is prohibited. Spain's subsoil contains a treasure trove of some 1.3 trillion cubic meters of gas, equivalent to around 40 years of consumption at the current rate, according to a study by the Higher Council of Associations of Mining Engineers. Its exploitation would greatly reduce Spain's energy dependence, guarantee supply in turbulent times such as the present, create thousands of jobs, and probably lower energy bills. Most of these unconventional gas fields are located in the north, in the strip that starts in Asturias and reaches the Pyrenees, including Burgos, in the Levante area, the Betic mountain range, and the last stretch of the Guadalquivir. However, this gas cannot be extracted because the coalition government banned by law the exploitation of hydrocarbons. So Spain's sitting on a gas reserve that could supply the country for 40 years, but it can't be touched. So the importation of gas to this country will need to continue. Now let's have a look at a summary of the current health situation in Spain. We can see the accumulated incidence rate on the rise, now sitting at 445. Hospital pressure, however, remains low at 3.7%, and ICU pressure also low at 6.6%. Now there's some important news for drivers here in Spain today because new rules have come into effect. As we can see here, changes in traffic law and new DGT fines now in force. Anyone who holds a mobile phone in their hand at the wheel and is detected by an officer will now lose 6 points on their driving license out of a maximum of 15. The main novelty of the traffic law reform, which comes into force on Monday the 21st of March, comes along with the elimination of the 20 km/h margin for overtaking on conventional roads, the increase in the punishment for not wearing a seatbelt, and the new compulsory way of passing cyclists on the tarmac. The DGT introduces new offences in the text, but the amount of fines remains unchanged. When the points-based driving licence was introduced in 2006, there was no WhatsApp. Since 2016, the number one cause of fatal accidents is distractions, and this has a name: mobile phone and WhatsApp. We had to do something, argues the Director General of Traffic, Pere Navarro. So there we go. If you want to avoid losing points on your license, don't get caught sending a WhatsApp when you're driving. Now let's have a look at some of the comments from previous videos. One here from Micho: doesn't milk spoil fairly quickly? Why would you stock so many litres? Yeah, Micho, thanks for the comment, and obviously referring to something that I said in yesterday's live stream about a man that I saw at the supermarket with 30 litres of milk in his trolley. And you're right, if it was fresh milk it would make no sense to buy 30 litres because it would go off before you could use it. But here in Spain, however, the majority of milk on display in supermarkets is UHT, and it keeps for around 6 months. So that's why currently, with the supply crisis that we have in Spain, you'll see people stocking up on milk. One here from Stephen: hi Stuart, back to Wales having spent January and February in Spain. I have to say weather is good in Wales at the moment. When I was over in Spain, I purchased bottles of Rioja Reserva, my favourite Spanish wine, usually for around 5 to 6 euros a bottle. Quite often you can get special offers in Carrefour and save money, usually washed down with some nice Manchego cheese. Still enjoying your updates after 2 years. Cheers mate, keep up the good work. Stephen. Yes, Stephen, thanks for the comment, and good to see that you are still watching the videos after 2 years. I didn't think that I would still be doing them after 2 years, but there you go. And the supermarket you mentioned in your comment is a good place to buy red and white wine here in Spain. Lots of variety, and they quite often have special offers on wine. And you're right, for 5 or 6 euros you can often get a decent drop of red wine. Combine it with a nice bit of cheese and away you go. One here from Elaine: wishing you a happy Dia del Padre. Are you doing anything special? I purchase extra cards here in the US in June when we celebrate and send them to Spain for March. Yeah, Elaine, thanks for the comment, and you're right, last Saturday the 19th of March was Father's Day here in Spain, and we didn't do anything special. We just had a quiet day, relaxed, and enjoyed each other's company. One here from Mr. Know-It-All: Stuart, it's not just new drivers that must have the L in their car, but expats that have recently gotten their license in Spain. I have been driving over 40 years in the US, but had to pass the written exam and the driving exam here in Spain to get my driver's license here. Then we have to have the scarlet letter of the big L in the rear window of the car we are driving for the first year. Normally we are safe and experienced drivers, so just because you see an L doesn't mean it is a completely new person to driving. It could be an expat that has been driving 40 or 50 years. You Mr. Know-It-All, thanks for the comment, and you're right, the person driving with that green L plate in the rear window could in fact be an experienced driver that has had to resit their driving exam here in Spain because Spain doesn't recognize their original license. That was my case, and I imagine it is yours as well, coming from the United States. However, I imagine people like you and me would only be around 1% of the drivers with that L plate on the car. The other 99%, or perhaps more, would be people getting their license for the first time. So although it could be an experienced driver, the majority of times I don't think that's the case. And finally, one here from Shangen. Hi Stuart, are there any better beers in Madrid than those ubiquitous red and green tins of Mao? Yes, Shangen, thanks for the comment, and the answer is yes, you can find more beer variety than red and green Mao. Go to any big supermarket and you will find lots of different types of beer. However, in Madrid, Mao is the beer of choice of the locals. In fact, I know people here that won't touch another type of beer. And if it's not Mao, they won't drink it. So like I said, go to a big supermarket like El Campo or Carrefour, and you should be able to find different types of beer. On that note, I'll wrap the video up. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Debate the video out as you normally do. Tell us what your favorite type of beer in this country is. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.